Okay, we are live. We are coast to coast. We are border to border on iHeartRadio today, the Odyssey app, and also 50 plus AM FM stations across the country and around the world. Rumble, Cloud Hub, all the various places, even on TikTok. People love IQ on TikTok, apparently. So we have got IQ Al Rassoll with us today. We also have the amazing Dan Perkins, the man who is he is busier than a fruit merchant. He is the original reason that phrase was created. So I was talking with Dan yesterday, and he brought something up that is very interesting, and I want to start out with that. So Dan, I want you to toss out your idea here, and let's talk a little bit about
Okay.
this cool,
Um,
cool concept you have.
what I spoke to Jim about was um, we have a challenge in front of us as a communication media, not only us, but everybody that does the kind of shows that we do. And that is that we have a lot of people in America who do not understand what a socialist is or what a communist is. And I felt, and we have all these. I want to get rid of the president. I want to get rid of the Senate. I'm going to get rid of the Supreme Court. I want to get rid of judges, and I want to get rid of jails and the police and the sheriffs, and I want to take over corporations. They have a whole list of things that they want to do. And I thought that for a while, I've been doing on my Wednesday show, Moms Across America, for almost getting pretty close to over a half a year. Each week, we're reviewing a particular amendment to the Constitution. We physically read it from the document, and then we talk about it and what the document says and what it means, and is it still in play today, or was it repealed? Or and we have a dialogue on the Constitution, the elements of the Constitution. And I thought it would be a good idea, at least I hoped it was a good idea, that we should have part of each show going forward for a while, some discussion of what is the difference between a communist and a socialist, and then start talking about the items that they want to put on the agenda. When the co-chair of the American Communist Party said, when asked about taxing the rich, she said, absolutely, we should tax them to death. And we should close the jails. We should uh, let all the illegals come out with amnesty, and we should have no borders. Allow as many people want to come into the country as we can, and we need to challenge all of those things. And I think that this is a great forum with great people. We should probably look at it for a while and see if we can do a little bit of a segment on each show on communism and socialism.
It shouldn't be a probability. It should be an exact what you said. We should do it. We should do it starting today.
Yep.
So
And
No, I
Dan,
mean
what
it
what
because
is what
we're
is the
dealing
first?
with people who have no brain.
right. Well, it's not that it's. I would disagree with you and say it's not that they don't have any brains. They just haven't had anything put in their brains to help them understand what the differences are between socialism and communism. And I said to Jim that what I'd like to do today is not go into all the things they want to do right away. I just want to have a simple dialogue of understanding what it means to be a socialist and what it means to be a communist. And then we can talk about that, and then we'll go on with the rest of the show. But I think we start there. Right? That's ground zero. What is the difference between a communist and a socialist? And I've done some research on this, and what's interesting is that the Democrats are reluctant to want to use um,
Go
the
ahead. Go ahead.
the Democrats are reluctant to call themselves communist. They rather be called socialist. And the if you look at the two parties, communism and socialism, they are different. However, most everything I've read indicates that socialism is simply nothing more than a transition to ultimately going to communism.
Which it is, of course.
Yeah,
Historically, it is. In Russia, it was. In China, it was. In Vietnam, it was. It was exactly the same. We should not be politically correct when we talk. We should not whitewash our conversation. Socialism is bullcrap. It is the end, the beginning of the end is communism. It's that simple. It's not complicated.
yeah. But we need it. I want to talk a little bit about, well, one is a transition to the ultimate to the other, and communism is where they ultimately want to get to. But let's talk a little bit about the differences. For example, in a there's Frank. Um, should we wait on him, Jim?
Yeah. Yep, yep.
Hey,
Okay.
there we go.
So we're starting something new today, Frank, and you're an important part of this. I spoke to Jim yesterday, and I said, look, we need to help our audience understand, first of all, what's the differences between socialism and communism. And then we needed, in future episodes, we need to take apart each of the things that the socialists are saying they want to do. And I was just starting to introduce the concept of what's different between socialism and communism. But understand that the ultimate goal of the socialism is to turn to communism. And IQ had just articulated China and some other countries that started that way and exactly wound up as communists. So now you're up to speed. I was going to start the dialogue and then allow everybody else to jump in.
Sure.
The socialists actually have the ability to own property. You can own stocks and bonds. You can own a business. You can own your own home, car, whatever you want to do. But you don't control the work product. Now, as I was thinking about that, and I want to take you back in time, and I remembered something that former President Obama said when he was in some kind of a town hall meeting or something, and they were talking about with this gentleman about his business. And you may remember that Obama said, "You
You
didn't build that. You didn't build it. The government built it." And that's exactly what happens with communism after you transition through socialism. But the whole idea is to instill upon the workers to control everything, the production line, the management of the companies. All of that is all part of the transition from being a socialist country to a communist country. And so they lull you to sleep by saying, well, you can still have your house and you can still have a business and a car and you can have your own bank account and you can take vacations, and but there's more of the benefits accrue to the workforce than to the wealthy. And so that the Socialist Party really is a precursor for the Communist Party, and they use the idea of saying, well, it's a lot of things that you're already doing are already going to continue to be done, and except it's going to be fairer, there's going to be more balance, and you're going to get your fair share, and so I think that that's what they're doing in these campaigns, like they did with Mugabe. Um, he took a huge hit yesterday. Whether it will last or not, I don't know. But a local court suspended his taxation order. And if he doesn't get that money, I mean, he's in serious, serious trouble. And the judge gave both parties, I guess, until around the 20th of the month to present their arguments why he should or shouldn't continue the stop of the program. But we have to understand that a lot of what they got him into office, and what's other socialist candidates are getting around the country, is that young people who I personally don't believe really understand socialism or communism, We're looking at all the freebie things that they wanted to give them. In New York, they're going to give them the free subway, bus rides, free healthcare, free daycare, food, apartments, on and on and on. And they're going to get the money from the rich. That's also one of the issues of both socialism and communism, and that is to try and destroy the wealthy class. They want to take whatever they've accumulated, whatever businesses they own, they want to take under socialism, they want to take over those businesses. And this is what, again, doesn't make any sense and why it didn't work. They believe the workers can run the businesses. And
Language is a dangerous thing.
You sure
And
sure about
it's
it?
amazing that they use the phrase workers. And understand that workers is a euphemism for the ruling class of socialists. When they say the workers will control this and that, they really mean a small group of professional politicians who have managed to eke their way to the top will be the ones who control everything. Now, when you talk about the trade-off of your personal property rights in return for, quote, free buses, which never materialize, free this or free that, which also generally doesn't materialize or materializes in a way that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. It's just an excuse to give more power to a small group of people whose whole motive is to grasp power. Understand the psychology behind a socialist or a communist. You're just too stupid to understand how to live your life. You're too stupid to know what to do with your salary or the profits from your business. You're so stupid, you need us to decide for you how to run your life. Now, starting a business, even a small business, even a small mom and pop candy store, requires a lot of trust in the future. You're putting your time and your effort into this project that you've begun. You have to have some understanding that when you're working 6 or 7 days a week, as most small business owners do, that you have to get a rate of return. You can't say, well, we'll decide what your rate of return is and what you can do with that money once you get it. It doesn't make sense to work 6 or 7 days a week if they're only going to get is a promise from government that maybe if they're in a good mood that year, they'll let you do what you want with your own profits. That is absolutely ridiculous. Now, there's a saying, you can vote your way into socialism, but you can only shoot your way out of it. And that's exactly what you've seen in socialist countries around the country. Part of what I think Dan is referring to and young people don't understand is a complete lack of sense of history. Show me one example where socialism, which always leads to communism, doesn't end in utter disaster. As a reminder, 25 million people in the Ukraine were killed by starvation in the Holodomor after the Soviet Union, after the communists took over Russia. Their collectivization idea, which is what socialists always do, didn't work. When the communists took over China, 50 million people died of starvation and otherwise because they couldn't get the agricultural system right. It didn't work. It was a disaster. Venezuela, a nation sitting on an ocean of oil with a brilliant educated population, turned into a disaster area when the socialists took over. Even a nation as rich and as advanced as Sweden eventually had to give up on the concept of socialism because it just didn't work. Socialism exists only upon a bed of lies. If you strip away the lies, if you shine a light on history, it vanishes. Its support vanishes. We are paying the penalty now for 2 to 3 generations of young people who are not taught history, who are not taught reality. They believe that, well, I'm out of college now and I have all these debts and I'm living in my parents' basement and I can't find a job that pays me what I need to pay back for my college debt. Well, the government's going to give me a free bus ride. It's going to give me a free this and a free that. I guess I'll take that idea. That's pretty good because I'm desperate. But it always leads to disaster. Look at history and you'll reject socialism. That's the lesson that has to be taught.
So why don't we cut the conversation to a simple one? Socialism is the Trojan horse leading to communism. After all,
That's exactly right.
Odyssey at the moment is popular with the same people we're talking about. They never read history, and they think the film is something fantastic. It isn't. It's crap. But they believe it's good because they, as you said, they never read history. They never learned anything from history. So they repeat the same mistake again and again and again. It is the Trojan horse leading to communism. That's simple, not complicated.
Well said, IQ. And one of the fascinating things I find is when they call socialism a new idea, it's changed. Well, let's look at this. Socialism has existed since the dawn of humanity in different guises. In an absolute monarchy, it's the same thing. The monarch decides how all the assets are spent. He owns all the property. That's communism. That's socialism. In the medieval ages, well, the lord of the manor. You didn't own that land. You didn't own that business. The lord of the manor allows you to work on part of his property. And for that, he basically gives you enough so your family doesn't starve. Socialism isn't a new idea. It's the oldest idea in the book, and it's always been a disaster.
Well,
So-
let me ask the two of you a question. What should we be doing, understanding we know how it works and how it doesn't work? What's the best way to begin to try and educate those young people who are being mesmerized, as you said, Frank, because of the student debt and not getting a job when the government starts talking about giving you all kinds of free stuff?
Let's take one item at a time that they want. They want no prisons. We address that. They want no police. We address that. We address every single item that they want, and we prove it to be not only illogical, not only irrational, but self-destructive at the same time.
So I think so that what I would like to do is say let's next week, let's take one of the issues and let's start at the top. They want to get rid of the president. And I think that should be our topic of discussion on communism and socialism, getting rid of the president and what that means and what's going to replace it and what is it going to be able to do. And then we'll go on with the rest of the show. And I think we should.
Could you advise me? Because I don't know what they want. They want no president, but did they say what they want to replace it with?
Actually, if you'd like, go on the DSA website, and their entire platform is right there. What they say when they say no president, no Senate, they want a Congress, a House of Representatives. The House of Representatives would appoint and the chief executive and would appoint members of the Senate, would appoint members of the Supreme Court. So basically, you're giving the House all the power granted by the Constitution now to the President, the Supreme Court, and the United States Senate.
Wow, wow, wow. Okay, let's start with that one then.
Okay, that's what we'll talk about next week. Okay, I'm done with that. I want to ask Frank a question. I've been watching what's been going on, and it's specifically in Iran, and some people are beginning to make a lot of sense to me. That I had this professor from University of Connecticut who's a Iranian refugee, and he said there aren't enough bombs to bomb Islam out of Iran. What we're going to have to do, and I thought about it. I've thought about it many times. We're continuing to spend. We're in a lull at the moment, but we've dropped a lot of bombs on that country, and we've inflicted an enormous amount of damage. Yet they still, for some reason, have a supply of weapons that they can attack Saudi's oil fields and other countries and ships in the Straits of Hormuz. So we haven't gotten rid of all of it, but I kind of reached the question. Look, thanks to Mr. IQ Al-Rassoll, we know we can't trust these people. And Mr. Trump has said it on the television on a global basis. We can't trust them. They lie. And many other people have talked about the lack of reliability, of honesty and integrity of the Iranian government. They lie, they cheat, they steal, do whatever they want, agree to anything, but never do it. Why should we be spending the time trying to negotiate a peace that everybody in the world knows they're not going to honor it?
We're making two errors. One, of course, is spending time in negotiations, which will go no place. They could agree to anything and not live up to it. And two, frankly, after we've eliminated the Iranian conventional military, except for whatever remaining arsenal they have, and they can always have a couple of missiles left to launch, the only targets we should be worrying about are targeting the IRGC and the Iranian leadership, the mullahs. Frankly, the Israelis had the right idea. At this point, we should be working in tandem with the Mossad to pinpoint where the Iranian leadership and the IRGC leadership is living, sleeping, and eating, and those should be our targets. We've already eliminated most of their military. Anything more is just, frankly, a waste of time. One of the mistakes we've made is we've established this wonderful air dominance over Iran. Okay, great. What are you going to do with it? There's nothing left really to bomb militarily. What you want to do with it is have satellites, have drones, have surveillance 24/7, find out where the IRGC and the mullahs eat, sleep, and go about their business. And that is what you should be targeting. The Iranian leadership doesn't give a damn about sanctions. They've killed 53,000 of their own people. They don't care about the sanctions causing starvation to their population. They don't care how much suffering the American military can cause to the Iranian population. They don't give a damn. You see the same thing in Cuba. Cuba is basically in the dark ages, and I do mean literally dark. They have electricity for only a couple of hours a day. The leadership doesn't give a damn in Cuba because communist leadership, socialist leadership is not about the population. It's about themselves, their own power, their own wealth. So forget about mass bombing of Iran anymore. Work with the Mossad, target the leadership. That's what we should be concentrating on.
Frank, all the information I get, Israel already knows where the targets are. Trump is stopping them. Israel wanted to attack every single day for the last 60 days. And every single day for the last 60 days, Trump told them not to attack. They already knew. All they need is a green light. Sorry, Dan. Back to you.
That's all right. Frank, you and I talked about my idea that I sent on to the White House. Given what has happened, I have a new plan, which I will tell on Jim's show. The two things that have the greatest impact on Iran is oil and then oil. Now, I'm suggesting to the White House that we take the scenario that I had on the nuclear situation, and we take dirty bombs and we bomb the island, Kirk Island, where all the transportation hub is. We will contaminate all those pipes, and so there isn't a tanker in the world that will pull in there and risk of trying to download crude oil through those radioactive pipes that could contaminate their tankers so they could never be used again. And we don't have to put anybody on the ground because it'll be there. And for the first 30 days, of that bomb, nobody will go on that island because it'll be too radioactive. Number two, I think you take that dirty bomb and you pick an oil refinery and you hit it. Now, so they won't be able to process any of that crude oil going through the pipes and into that refinery and then into storage. We didn't really have to do any massive bombing. We took away their source of distribution of crude oil by contaminating the pipes, And we didn't have to put anybody on the ground to do that. We don't need to leave anybody there to watch that because there's nothing they can do about it. It has to evolve and diminish over time. As it relates to the refinery, so by doing those two things, we've effectively shut down the supply of money for that country, period. Without having to put massive ships in there, we can pack up our bags and leave and let Israelis or if we decide to give weapons to the insurgents in Iran, let them do what ultimately has to be done. You're going to have to get rid of the leadership in Iran with regime change in order to change what's going on, because I don't think we have enough bombs in the world to try and get them to give up their philosophy. They will rather die than give up the philosophy of you can't trust an infidel. So
your last sentence is the most important, and it speaks about the problem of that solution. Militarily and financially, what you're suggesting is brilliant. It's perfect. No question at all. But will it change the attitude of the Iranian leadership? And I don't think it would at all. Again, this is a regime that killed 53,000 of its own people. What that does is it cripples the Iranian economy, it cripples the Iranian ability to pump oil. But does it change the mind of the Iranian leadership? I don't think it does. I think it's essentially just almost a wasted effort, in that it makes more sense to go after the leadership and leave that other stuff alone, let the world economy succeed. And frankly, I do think that even if you did all of that, the assistance that Iran would receive from China and Russia would be enough to keep it afloat. So I think we've got to stop worrying about these extraneous attacks and go after the leadership. Openly state that regime change is our policy and that we are expending our resources to that end and to that end only.
Okay, fair.
That's a heck of a deal. That is a heck of a deal.
Part of the problem is that Trump is kind of handicapped by the fact that should he openly state that policy, should he try to do that, Congress is going to go, the Democrats in Congress will go crazy. They'll try to cut funding again. You got a couple of rhino Republicans who will go along with it, which is why I think we do have the perfect vehicle to do it anyway. Hands off. Those darn Israelis, they did it. We told them not to, but they went ahead and did it anyway. By the way, we're secretly funneling weapons to them.
Right.
So I think that's the hands-off policy we really need to do.
Okay. We can't continue to do what we're doing.
Yeah.
This jerking people off. We're fighting 1 week and then they're taking a week off and
Yeah, that is the one thing that I will have to say over the last couple years has been the strangest thing is that the Ukraine and this Iran thing are the weirdest wars I've ever seen. Like with the Iran thing where they're like part-time having a war. I did.
And I say, and it exposes a lot of mistakes made in the past. I mean, when George Bush Sr., at the fall of the Soviet Union, wanted to soft pedal it, he didn't want to be harsh, he didn't want to do this or that, the other thing. Frankly, what he should have done was declare Ukraine or invite Ukraine immediately to become part of NATO, where the Russians were too paralyzed to do anything about it. We soft pedaled it. That idiot, Francis Fukuyama, wrote his article saying the end of history will never have another major war. We tore down our Navy. We had about 495 ships. We tore it down to about 290. What used to be called pussyfooting, simply destroyed our chances. Right now, if we had declared Ukraine part of NATO, if we had said, you lost, we won, we're giving you the rules now, it could have changed the course of history in a dramatic way for the better. And I believe at this point, if we had done that, Russia would have been a partner for peace with us right now. If we had supported Boris Yeltsin, perhaps more than we did, we would have been a lot better off. But we didn't. But we're making the same mistake again. How many times have we made that mistake? When we fought in Vietnam, whether we should have gone in there or not, it's a question for another day. But once we made the decision after the Gulf of Tonkin to go into Vietnam, rather than the middling way we did it, we should have said, look, Hanoi, you've got two choices. Surrender this invasion of the South. We're going to bomb Hanoi and all those dams that supported the North Vietnamese economy. We're going to bomb them out. We're going to flood your country. Surrender now. The mistake we made in Afghanistan was there was a lot of targets we should have hit day one. We didn't do it. This nonsense of fighting a war halfway doesn't make any sense at all. Once you put an M16 into the hand of an 18-year-old kid and tell him to go get yourself possibly killed for your country, you owe that kid every weapon, every force in your arsenal to win that war as quickly as possible. But we make the same mistake over and over and over again, and it's the mistake we're making in Iran now.
Because we don't have George Patton's anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or Douglas MacArthur, for that matter.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up here with Frank, Frank, how do we get in touch with you online and give us a preview of your radio and TV projects?
Well, thanks for asking. If the Vernuccio Novak Report is not on your local station, we're on 17 markets throughout the USA. You can always catch us at usagovpolicy.com. And we're talking this week with Richard Lyons, who's the author of a great series of books called The DNA of Democracy. And he's going to be talking about how everything that the DSA is suggesting, is pushing for in policy, would lead to nothing less than the destruction of the United States as we currently know it.
Well, Frank, thanks for doing this. We'll talk to you next week, sir.
Look forward to it. Thanks so much, guys.
You bet.
There he goes. That is Frank Vernuccio. So as we move forward here, IQ, what is some of the things that we should be talking about? I'll let you start.
Well, besides Iran and Russia, I don't know. I mean, the subject that Dan talked about is very important, really is important. We have to educate people. And the only way to educate people is to put on the left-hand side what socialism has done, and on the right-hand side what capitalism has done. And
Well,
literally one by one.
Let me
Sorry,
throw
go
out some things that maybe you might be interested in responding to, or perhaps not, but they're things that I'm talking about on other shows yesterday and today. The Children's Hospital in Texas, in Dallas, Texas, recently settled a lawsuit where they admitted that they were lying to parents and children about transgender surgeries. And they also defrauded the Medicare and Medicaid organization to millions of dollars. And what's important about the story is something that I've really been on a high horse about. And I've said this before. No longer when I'm on anything, either my shows or somebody else's shows, no longer will I accept the discussion of transgender, because there is nothing a human being can do to change a girl to a boy. Just because you put on a dress or you grow a breast doesn't mean that you're a girl. It's your DNA. And right, so far they haven't come up with a test that can create a new DNA for a human being to make a girl a boy. And I think we should really be calling these people who are using transgender Nazis, because they're doing exactly what Adolf Hitler did at the beginning of World War II. He told a lie, he told it loud, and he told it often enough that the people began to believe what he was saying was true. That's what's happened in the United States as it relates to transgender. We have a situation, IQ, where we have 3 professional men's basketball players in the NBA who want to go into the draft to be drafted in the Women's National Basketball Association drafting tournament because they want to play in women's basketball. And they know that they're bigger, stronger, taller, that they'll dominate. And that's what they want to do. They want to go in and dominate women. So it seems to me that here we have one of these agenda items on the left is they want to continue to make transgender surgeries available for every American who wants them, paid for by the government. And so
Not by the government. With all due respect, we keep saying the government. It's by the American taxpayer. We have to say it the way it is, not cover it up. Governments don't have money, zero money. This is our taxpayer. This is
Right.
our money. And
Right.
transgenderism is abnormal. I don't care. If he's a transgender, good luck to him or to her, whatever they are. I will not discriminate against them. I will not discriminate against them. But if they try to force their ideas and their perversion on my children, I will eliminate them.
Oh,
It's simple. It's not
he said
complicated.
eliminate. I was waiting for him to say, shoot them
Yes.
dead.
Shoot them dead.
Well, you are laughing. I mean, why are we laughing? They are damaging children. And we
Right.
are laughing the criminals. And I
Well,
hope they will win in the court.
What also happened, IQ, a few months ago, is that the American Medical Association and the Pediatric Association of America both said that transgender surgery should not be performed on any child under the age of 18.
Okay,
But the left isn't talking about it, and neither is the right. They're not talking about it anymore. But it's really a situation that is a problem. When we get to the agenda items starting next week, this is one of the major agendas of the Democratic Socialists, is this whole idea of having control over our children without us as parents being involved. And it'll be another issue. They're making it an issue for the midterm election. Now,
Okay.
There's another thing that's going on, and that is that people are reacting to Dr. Fauci's congressional testimony, such as it was. We have 18 states, and I think I heard this afternoon that 3 states, including my state, have already decided to file charges. They've got enough evidence that they can plead to a grand jury to indict Dr. Fauci. Now he's got a situation, as you may recall, IQ, that he was given a pardon on the last day of Joe Biden's presidency, and it went backwards significantly. And so what the Congress is saying, you had a pardon so that whatever you said couldn't be used against you because you had a pardon. He refused to testify in the federal court. Now, the pardon that he got from Joe Biden is only good under federal statutes. His pardon, he has no protection with his pardon against states prosecuting him. So shortly after that debacle on the Hill, we had as many as 18 states agreeing, state attorney generals agreeing that they wanted to bring him up on charges. And there are now people saying, okay, but he ain't going to do jail time. Democrats don't do jail time. And they start off by talking about Bubba Clinton. He was convicted of various activities. He was lost his law license and all these other things, and he never spent a day in jail. Fauci is following the same playbook from Bill Clinton, refusing to answer the question. And what he's trying to do is, at the federal level, run out the statute of limitations. If you remember, IQ, when Comey couldn't be prosecuted, when Hunter Biden couldn't be prosecuted because the statute of limitations for some of his tax fraud cases had run out. It's a common practice in the Democratic Party that they delay, and reach a point where they have passed the statute of time has passed, and so they petition the court to drop the charges. So we have what Fauci is going to start trying to do with 18 states and probably more is pull the Bill Clinton, the Democratic delay. That's how we never convict or hardly ever convict a Democrat of wrongdoing, because they manipulate. Look at what's going on with the assassin of Charlie Kirk. They have been 9 months in the pretrial hearings, and they have yet to pick a jury. Nothing. And yet he's in jail, but they've been delaying, and they're going to continue to delay as long as they possibly can to see if they can write out the statute of limitations on some of the things that he's charged with. And that's what's going on. And that's why Democrats never go to jail.
Thank you for confirming that you don't have justice system. Thank you very much.
Sure. Now we have a situation, we'll like this one, Joe, about Joe, that basically, do you remember the attorney, Mr. Herr, IQ? He was the attorney who questioned Joe Biden.
Yes, I remember exactly what he did. Yes.
Well, finally what happened was that under a federal Freedom of Information Act, they got the entire audio tape released. And they're now, the doctors that have listened to it, the specialists in Alzheimer's and dementia, they're now saying that they believe Biden's senility started before he was even elected president.
Well, are you shocked? Are you surprised? I'm not shocked. I'm not surprised.
No, I'm not surprised, and I don't think a significant percentage of the American people are surprised. But what they are surprised about is how much and how frequently, how much the news media lied to us, and people in the cabinet lied. Jill lied. She's now saying that his cancer has spread. He's in a great deal of pain. And she's now saying he probably wouldn't have survived if he had been reelected president. So she's now admitting that he had this cancer and other problems that impeded his ability to become president, when everybody said, well, he's sharp as a tack, and he wasn't. So again, we have another situation where we've got people in the administration and everything else, people lying about what was going on with him. And now we got more evidence. And what Donald Trump and a lot of people, ourselves included, were talking about what was going on with Joe Biden. He was not the kind of person who was in a frame of mind to hold the most demanding job in the world, that of president of the United States.
Well, all you had is an example. For example, when he said that Saudi Arabia is a pariah state, and within a few months he went begging to increase the oil production so that he can tell the American people that he's doing a good job.
Right.
I mean, you don't need more than that. I mean, from calling your most imported supplier of oil, pariah, and then you go begging, it's enough. That's it. I mean, for me, anyways, I don't know about anybody else.
Right, right. Now, the last thing that I'm talking about on shows this over this last week is we have a situation in North Carolina where there was a riot of young people in Asheville, North Carolina, and they took to the streets with guns and they shot people and they killed a bunch of people just for kicks. And then last week in my state, on Interstate 95, which runs all the way up to Maine, up towards the Jacksonville area, they had blocked off so many miles of Interstate 95, and they were holding drag races on the interstate at 140 miles an hour. And when the cops came and they tried to start dispersing it, these cars took off and were running all over the place at incredible speeds and damaged a lot of property and put a lot of people's lives in jeopardy. So there's something going on in young people today, and I'm curious as to whether or not any violence in Europe is primarily done by young people.
Yes, but not on the same scale as America, because you don't have the guns as in America, or even the cars, or even the space like in America. But what puzzles me is when you have a police force with machine guns and rockets, allowing these people to run amok without any, literally, any stopping them. All you have to do is blow their cars up.
Yeah,
All you have to do is blow their cars up. That's all. Machine gun their tires.
Yep.
Literally, machine gun their tires. But
Right.
nobody does anything. Nobody does anything.
Now, I want to. There's one more thing I want to talk about, but I'll do it later if we have time. I'm curious what's going on. How is the new prime minister being accepted?
Well, he took over from the other prime minister, the same garbage that he has, and he's not any different, by the way. He's not any different. The illegals are still coming. The exploration for oil and gas in the North Sea has been stopped. So nothing has changed. In fact, we are running short of water because of the heat. And there was a burst pipe in the north of London, and thousands of businesses had to shut down. They had not enough water in the taps, and they couldn't even buy enough water to drink. And we're talking about a 21st century European country, not Africa, not Latin America, but it's a third world country now. Same thing all over Europe, by the way. All of them are third world countries because of the immigration. Not immigration, because of the invasion of illegal.
So let me follow that with a question, and if I'll give you my premise, and then you tell me whether I'm wrong. There are a number of European nations, England, France. I don't know about Germany, but there are a number of countries in Europe who have nuclear weapons.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Now,
Yeah. Yeah.
if your projection is correct that in so many years Europe will be all Muslim countries.
Yeah.
And they'll take over the governments and run the countries. I saw this piece recently, which surprised me when I saw it. It's written by an English reporter, and he claimed that the Labour Party, which has had prime ministers for almost the last 50 years in England, is a socialist party.
Okay. As I said, socialism is the Trojan horse to communism.
Right.
That's it. That's why England is a failed country. That's why France is a failed country. That's why most of them are failed countries. You cannot ever have an open border and survive properly. It's impossible. The cost of taking care of these people runs in the hundreds of billions of dollars. We're not talking about millions, we're talking about hundreds of billions. You have to house them, you have to feed them, you have to educate them, you have to.
Give them medical care.
But exactly. I mean, all these things cost hundreds of thousands of dollars per person.
Right.
And you talk
So,
about millions, that's it.
okay, so let me ask you a follow-up question to that.
Yes, sir.
Let's say that your forecast is true, that many of the European nations will ultimately turn into Muslim states. And I'm assuming that when you say that the leadership of the countries will be Muslim.
Yeah, not necessarily the leadership, but most of the people who are in political and council places will be Muslim. Yes,
Okay.
because it's insidious. You don't have to control the whole country to destroy it. You destroy it from within by controlling all the cities, all the major hubs of communication. That's what's happening.
So with that said, with my question that I'm interested in your response to is, what happens to all the nuclear arsenals?
It depends if the armed forces of these countries wake up. The only people who can save Western Europe are the armed forces. Nobody else. And if they
So
don't wake up, they are done. They're
so
done.
so that you're talking about, if I understood you correctly, that the armed forces are going to have to rebel against the government.
Absolutely. There's nobody else can do that. The people have no arms, they have no guns. Nobody in Europe is allowed to have a gun except Switzerland. That's it. So the only people who will be guardians of the state are the armed forces. The question is, will there be anybody like Napoleon type or like Washington who will take over the burden of overthrowing a state? That's not we don't have democracies in Europe now. We have
So
dictators.
if let's assume that you're right, at the military, what would the military establish? A
Martial law.
democracy?
Martial law. We don't
Martial
start
law.
with democracy. We start with martial law. You suspend all rights, all human rights. You suspend all the laws. Then you deal with the Muslims within. And after you deal with the Muslims within, you can decide democracy or not democracy. By the way, the most dangerous elements, if you have in America, is to have Muslims in the armed forces. They are not loyal. They cannot be loyal. The point is they cannot be loyal. I don't care what anybody says. You cannot be a Muslim and a loyal citizen among kuffar. It's prohibited in the Quran. I know you
So
don't like to hear it. I know most Americans don't like to hear it, but you can have to lump it because you can't tell me I'm wrong. It's impossible.
so you're saying that you believe that the Muslims, at some point in time, the Muslims within the military will use fracking to kill the military leadership and take over.
Think about it. Just think about it. All you need is one pilot, one single pilot goes rogue, and the whole nuclear carrier is gone. One pilot, one nuclear carrier. And don't tell me it's impossible. What they did in 9/11 was impossible, but they did it. So think about it.
Wow.
Yeah, I know you don't want to think about it. I know.
No, I don't. I don't. Because it's scary. I mean,
Of course it's scary. Of course it's scary. But when you have the Ebola virus in your vein, how do you get rid of it? You have to treat it. Only martial law can treat it.
Wow.
I know. Wow, wow, wow. Look, it took me 40 years. It's not a joke. I don't say these things for fun. When I say you have to execute sentences like on Fauci, he's a mass murderer. The education system, the woman who leads the education system in America, what's her name? The white
Right.
woman.
Okay. Now I have a question for Jim.
Yes.
Not that you could have jumped in any time and added. Here's my question. Should we allow those three NBA players to get into the WNBA draft? And should we allow males, either identified males who say they're females, into the WNBA and play?
Oh, I don't think they'll let them in.
Wait a minute. I thought it was a joke, by the way.
I don't think they will let them in. They're basically making a joke out of the
Yeah,
fact that
it's a joke. I think they are in support of the women.
they're
Literally.
about
They're doing
the
it in
fact
support
that
of the women.
They do not. The WNBA has something going where they won't identify what is a woman. And so what has happened is these guys have decided, okay, well, if you can't do it, then we're going to do this and make a mockery of it.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. If the first letter of the WNBA, they don't know what W stands for, all of them should be fired. All of them should be dismissed. You cannot have women and men in the same league. Forget it. Whether it's transgender, supergender, undergender, I don't care. Either they are a woman or they are a man. That's it.
But let me ask you a question, Jim. If you had an unlimited supply of money in your wallet and these three guys got in, would you go to one of the games and watch one of the guys play on one team against the girls?
No.
You wouldn't go.
No, I wouldn't go. I wouldn't go to the WNBA. It just wouldn't happen.
You wouldn't go, regardless of who's playing. You just
Regardless of who's playing, I wouldn't go.
Okay, because what's clear to me is that one of the reasons why their attendance is up and their revenue is up is Caitlin Clark, and
Yes.
part of that is the abuse that she's getting from members of other teams. They just and then her teammate almost had her head pulled off last week, so that they've become a very violent sport, and people like that, I think.
Yeah, maybe perverted people will like that. Yes, I agree with you. Rational human beings who know what the difference between a man and a woman is, or a male and a female is.
Well, I think that people that would be going to a game that know what women are and what men are, I wonder about the owners. You know, if you can put more people in the seats by having guys playing girls in professional basketball and looking to see who gets hurt and how bad he or she gets hurt.
Maybe.
Just maybe.
Maybe.
Okay. All right.
Well, as we wrap up here, let's start with IQ. IQ, what did you think of today's show?
As usual, very informative, and what Dan suggested is superb. And we really have to go and do it properly every single week.
Right. I
So
agree.
Dan, bring us up to speed on your projects, my friend.
So the first nonfiction book, which is Murder of America, is doing well. We're doing interviews and selling books every day. Still working on trying to get on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and all the online booksellers. I saw a man yesterday afternoon. He said he bought the book last Friday. He hasn't put it down, and he said this is amazing. I feel like I'm an idiot because I don't know what all the stuff that's in your book. And I said, don't feel like an idiot. Just that you probably never were exposed to it, either in the media or when you were in school. So we're really excited about it. We're starting to reach out to a higher tier of broadcasters, um, and see if we can't get more upscale interviews to talk about the book. Um, I'm continuing on the other nonfiction, Passport to Freedom, about my Irish immigrant friend who's now will be 86 shortly, and um, I'm trying to teach him broadcasting, Jim. It's really fun to watch me try and teach him how to act on the air and how to speak, and but he's trying really hard. Um, Websites are doing well. We're over 2.1 million, 2.4 million at AM FM 24/7. We're looking to add another day, another hour block. We're talking to Emma about that. And so we could be up to 3 nights a week. Um, and Songs and Stories is doing well, and all of the websites are getting a lot of traffic, so I can't really complain. My wife's doing better. She still has she runs out of gas about 1 o'clock, and she's having a little bit of reaction to her third tranche in treatment, but hopefully that'll settle down. And unbelievable. I never guessed that I would be doing what I'm doing.
Well, I'll tell you, Dan, you're doing some amazing stuff, my friend. And
I'm trying.
next week we have give us kind of a preview of what we can expect with this first part of this going over
Okay,
the
I
democratic
want to
socialist thing.
I want to try and understand, and I'm going to go to the website like Frank suggested, and I would suggest that our audience go to that website. I didn't get a chance to write it down; it was too quick. But maybe you can find out from him, and you when you post this, you can put it on the screen. Uh, I want to look deeper into the destruction of virtually the destruction of two of the three branches of government. They want to get rid of the president, and they want to get rid of the Supreme Court. Two of the three things that our original founding fathers put in as a core of our country. And I want to have a better understanding so we can help our listeners understand what it means to have a country without a president and without a Supreme Court. And you could also say if we have time, we want to throw in the Senate. So I want to look at the idea that we want to destroy 2/3 of the structure of our government, and then what they want to replace it with. And it's going to be bureaucrats for sure. But so that's where I want to go next week.
Fantastic. Well, I'm looking forward to it. And gentlemen, I will talk to you next week. And IQ, I will see you on